In Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, he's got a rule, I think it's rule 9, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. I think that is a fantastic rule. And I'm not saying that you should never criticize the world or that you can't have an opinion about it. But when you're going to go out and make a bunch of bold claims and take on a mission to change the world, it's probably going to hurt you if you haven't put your own house in order. In Christianity, this is the principle of stewardship. And I know some of you probably love Jordan Peterson and some of you probably don't. And I'm just going to say this is a solid rule. And the reason is because God has designed the universe and designed humanity so that we can start small. You don't have to come out of the womb being able to manage a kingdom. You come out of the womb not having to manage anything. You are 100% managed. And as you grow and as your brain forms and you learn how to not only perceive things but conceptualize and come up with thoughts and find the one in the many and figure out what this is and what that is and what to do with it. I mean, that's growing up. That's development. Then you take on more and more responsibility and for yourself. And good parents are going to do that. They're going to teach you to take care of yourself. In the parable of the talents, Jesus talks about, and there's also a parable of the minas, and the basic point is the same. A master goes away and he gives a certain amount of money to 3 of his servants, and they each get a different amount of money. And he says, I'm leaving, but I'm going to come back and demand an account. I want you to show me what you did with what I've given you. He comes back. One of them, let's just say he had given him $5. He says, hey, look, I took your $5 and I made $5 more. Here you go. He says, well done. That's amazing. Here, you can now be in charge of 10 cities, which to some of us may sound like a lot of work, but apparently the guy with the 5 talents liked that sort of thing. Then you have the guy with the 2 talents, and he comes and says, look, I took your 2 talents and I made 2 more. He's like, great, go be in charge of 4 cities. And then he has the guy with the $1 or the 1 talent or the 1 mina or whatever it is. And he says, here's your 1 talent back. I didn't do anything with it and he makes up a bunch of excuses. And the master gets upset and says, cast him out into the outer darkness. The principle of stewardship, a steward is a manager, maybe the manager of a house, a steward of a house. He's given charge of something by a master to take care of and do something good with it. And the idea is that God has given us our life, our resources, our gifts, our talents, our skills, and all our potential even, and says, do something with it, and do something that glorifies me, and do something for the world. Well, the 1 talent, I believe, is your own life. That's the way it works. When you are looking for someone who can do something, who you could hire to do something or entrust to do something, you're first going to look for someone whose life is in order. In 1 Timothy 3, Paul talks about the qualifications for church leaders, and one of them is he must manage his own household well, because if he can't manage his own household well, how could he possibly manage in the church? And you can go that down even further and say he must manage his own self well, or how could he possibly manage a household? If you want God to entrust you with a household, then you've got to manage yourself. So this is why Peterson always talks about clean your room. This is why he's saying you've got to take care of your own business before you start criticizing the world, because why should we even listen to your criticism of the world if you can't take care of yourself? If you can't take responsibility for your life, for your health, for your house, for your room, for your finances, for your learning, for your job, whatever it is. So good parents, as little kids are getting old enough to do it, they're starting to give them responsibility. And this is not easy to figure out as a dad. This is really hard, actually, because you want to see your kids succeed. You never want to see them fail, but you have to trust them to fail. And God is pretty good at doing that with us, right? He gives us what he gives us, and then he entrusts it to us, and he entrusts us to fail and we might not hear about it from him until he returns. But the fact is, you get feedback on how you're doing. Now, there are things that happen to us sometimes that are outside our control. But even those things are tests. Even those things are given to us in a way to see what will we do about it. It's not really what happens to you, it's what you do about it. It's not what you start with or are given, it's what you do with it. It's not how good looking you are, it's what you do with the looks you have. It's not how tall you are, it's what you do with your life. It's not how much money your parents had, it's what you do with what you've been given. It's not how smart you are genetically or how many good opportunities you had to learn, it's what you do with those things. We all know people who are born with all the opportunities in the world and they don't do anything. In fact, it almost seems as though it hurts them. It's like the master gives the 5 talents to someone and they don't even just bury the 5 talents, they just lose it somewhere. They're not even taking care of it. And we all know people who were born with nothing and they rose from the dust and created a life. And it's that simple. So that's why that rule makes sense to me. And if you want to change the world, I 100% agree that you should start with your life. What does it look like to be wise in your life? What does it look like to be wise with your health, your time, your energy? How much should you sleep? How should you eat? What should you do with the time that you're given? Be intentional about it. Manage it. It's yours to manage. I'm a writer, a pastor, a father, a teacher at the university. I have hobbies. I have things that I love. I have things that I hate. I have a limited number of minutes in every day. The last thing I can do is go about it haphazardly. You gotta think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how does it fit in with your values, how does it fit in with the long-term plans that you feel like God has put in your heart. And if you don't know what those are, make that a priority to find. If you want help with that, I'll have a Calendly link at the bottom of this down in the comments. If you want some free advice, it helps me to talk to real people about content. So I'm happy to give you some free advice, listen to what you say about your life. But this rule number 9, and forgive me if it's not rule number 9, but it's the one that says don't go and try to criticize the world or change the world until you get your own house in order, because who cares what you say, is a pretty darn good one. It's the people who get their house in order who are given more responsibility and more responsibility and more responsibility and more responsibility, and then they can change the world and be a blessing to all of us. But you start there. I hope that's helpful, and I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I hope you subscribe, and I hope you share, and I hope you just watch this again and watch this video and that video. We'll see if I pointed to the right place. We'll see how the editor does. Have an awesome day.